guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming a very exciting video. I'm going to be ranking all the eyeshadow palettes I tried in 2020. So I have a few quick disclaimers. I'm only going to be ranking palettes that launched in 2020. If it launched outside of 2020 and I tried it in 2020, you probably won't see those palettes in this video. If there are a few, I do apologize. That was definitely an error on my part, but I did the best I could. I still feel like I'm going to be off with the numbers, but I am ranking close to 100 palettes. I feel like there should be more, but there are some palettes that I did try in 2020 that I've already decided to declutter from my collection. So those palettes will not be included in this video. I did not want to dig through my declutter box to grab all the palettes, and it would have honestly just made this video even longer. So I just decided to rank whatever was on my shelves from 2020 that I decided to keep. Some of this I might still declutter in the future. I haven't quite decided, but I still do have some pretty horrible palettes ranked close to the bottom. I feel like a lot of the worst offenders have been uprooted from my collection, so we'll see how it goes. There will still be some roasting for you guys to enjoy. Without further blabbering, let's get into the video. If you guys are new to my channel, I just want to say welcome. My name is Karen Harris. I like to film tan girl friendly makeup videos here on YouTube. When I first started watching YouTube, I had such a hard time finding reviews and swatches on somebody with my skin tone. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and start up my own channel. If you guys like reviews, swatches, will I buy it, anti-hauls, ranking videos, then I would highly recommend subscribing to my channel and turn on that post notification bell so you are notified every time I post a new video. Okay, so for my worst eyeshadow palette of 2020, there were a lot of contenders. Some of them have already been decluttered from my collection, so I don't have them to show you. And I'm not going to keep bringing up old palettes or palettes I just don't have anymore. But Millennial Pink, I think, was definitely worse than the palette I picked for number 98. But let's all just take a moment of silence to remember how horrifying Millennial Pink's was. I dislike that palette so much. I wanted to give it a chance because it was Melt, and Melt is one of my favorite brands, but oh my gosh, I was so disappointed. So very happy I don't have that palette anymore. But in 98th place, I did decide to pick the Juicy Boost palette. Oh my goodness, this palette. This palette was truly one of the most disappointing palettes of 2020 in my humble opinion. I am such a Color Drain stan, you guys. I bought the Queen of Hearts palette years ago when me and my husband still lived in an apartment, and it was my favorite palette. I was so happy. That's the brand that really got me into exploring indie makeup, and I basically bought release after release from them and was very happy. And then I was so excited because they hadn't launched an eyeshadow palette in a while, and they launched this, and whew, I just don't like this palette. I don't like the pigmentation. I don't like how hard it is to blend the shadows. I did recently feature this in a worst makeup of 2020 video where I kind of gave it like one more chance, and it didn't disappoint me quite as much as it did the first time. I think the trick with this palette, the way to make it work, is to not use too many shades, not try to blend too hard, and then use a glitter glue when you're using the shimmer shades. But other than getting past all of that, I also really don't love the color story as much as I thought I would. I feel like these two rows could have definitely been eliminated in my humble opinion. Other than that, I do like the packaging and everything, so I'm really hoping that Color Drain comes out with something really amazing in 2021 to make up for this palette. Okay, 97 goes to the 420 palette by Melt Cosmetics. This is another one where it's such an amazing color story. I was so excited when Melt previewed this palette because you guys know how much I love green eyeshadows, and this was a little bit different from some of the things I already had. I think this would be a fun one to even do like a Pantone look with because that shade Wax is such a pretty bright yellow shade. But oh my gosh, I just remember struggling so hard with this palette. This formula is just not one of my favorites from Melt Cosmetics. There are some Melt palettes that I love that are my holy grail. You'll see them in like the top 10 of this video, but this palette was not one of them. So it really goes to show how inconsistent Melt is with their formulas. and this one had a particularly terrible formula, very similar to the Millennial Pink, so that is why it's ranking number 97. In 96th place, I have another Melt palette. This is the Rust palette. I feel like this is a palette I would have passed from any other brand other than Melt, but since I like the Melt eyeshadow formula, I was really hoping this was going to be like a neutral palette that really blew my socks off, but unfortunately, they did not make a good neutral palette. This one just does not blend as easily as some of the other eyeshadow palettes I have from Melt Cosmetics, so it's at number 96. Okay, in 95th place is Vintage Dawn by Ace Beauté. I'm so sad that I have to rank this one so low, but I love this color story so much. I thought this was such a fun, innovative color story, and I was so disappointed in this palette because the pigmentation was just not what I like in my eyeshadow. So honestly, I have to rank this pretty low, and yeah, it's such a bummer because I think this is such a fun color story. I would love to see this color story in a different formula from a brand I like, but this was a no for me. 94, this palette was so disappointing from Give Me Glow. This is the Extra Spicy palette. I was really excited for Give Me Glow to launch another palette. I really don't find the Sunset eyeshadow palette very appealing anymore. I feel like there was a time when this color story was so much of a hit, but it's really not for me anymore, and I really regret buying this, and I don't think this reminds me of the really great Give Me Glow formula that I love. And that's exactly how I felt about Sweet and Sticky as well. I picked this up recently over Black Friday, and I was so excited again for them to launch something new because Give Me Glow doesn't do eyeshadow palettes very often. They usually do eyeshadow palettes a few times a year, and then they'll fill in the gaps with some singles here and there. So I was really excited that they were doing a neutral palette. Unfortunately, this one just did not want to blend, and I really didn't like it, so I'm ranking it at 93. I'm just going to group all of these in the 92 spot. I don't hate these palettes as much as some YouTubers do, but I didn't think they were that great. I think the packaging is really cute, and I was able to do some nice eye looks with the blue and the green. I didn't think I used this one on camera, but they're just okay. I will definitely hold on to them just for display purposes and because I think they're kind of pretty, but you guys know I don't really buy a lot of Revolution makeup anyway, so I don't know. They're just okay, I guess. Number 91 is this Juvia's Place the Nubian Glow palette. I just really didn't like this color scheme. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but between the pressed glitter and then the somewhat gently pigmented mattes and shimmer shades in this palette, I was just not a fan of this, so I'm ranking it at number 91. Okay, in 90th place is another Juvia's Place palette. This is a quad. This is round 2 with Fumi, and I was really excited to see a little blue quad from Juvia's Place, and I love the quads. I hope they continue to explore these because the other quad is going to be ranked much higher. Spoiler alert. So I'm very excited about what they might come out with in 2021. But this one I was just not a fan of. I really like this black glitter. This blue one I feel like was very gritty, was really hard to put on when compared to the one in the Marielle palette. I think the black one is more like the one in the Marielle palette, so I wish they had just stuck to just doing one glitter shade and doing it well. The metallic was okay, the matte was okay, but for an all blue palette, I feel like there are so many other better all blue palettes that came out in 2020, so you guys will see that further up in my rankings. So even using Post-its, I just realized I screwed up my order already. So I have this ranked at number 88. I'm sorry! Oh my gosh, I was like trying to be so careful too. Oh well. Okay, so I'm ranking the Mint to Be palette at number 88, and honestly, I feel like you guys will see a pattern here. I don't really like pastels. I think I need to like admit that to myself and stop buying pastel shadows. I'm hoping that that's a thing in 2021 because I just get so disappointed by how pastels look in the palette versus on my eyeballs. I feel like the only way I can somewhat get them to work is use a white base or a lighter colored base just to get the shades to pop on me. But I was so disappointed in this palette because I was on a ColourPop no-buy in 2020 and this was the palette that broke my streak. And so since then, I went on to purchase a few other ColourPop palettes this year. Don't get me wrong, I was way more selective in 2020 than 2019, so I still feel like I made quite a lot of progress in my very unhealthy shopping habit as far as ColourPop goes, but man oh man was I disappointed in this palette. In 87th place is the Star Wars x ColourPop collaboration. Everybody went nuts for the Child palette, and I do think it's cute. It's just not my favorite palette for my skin tone. I think with ColourPop, there's definitely a few different formulas at play. Some of the eyeshadow palettes have this beautiful, really buttery metallic formula and a really nice matte formula, for example, in the Raw Beauty Kristi palette. And then some palettes, it's like, what is this really hard to blend matte shadow? I don't particularly enjoy their sequin formula. Like, there's a lot of really weird palettes, and then there's some really great ones hidden in between. So I'm really trying to figure out, like, which one is it ColourPop? Which one are you giving us every single time? So it's interesting to see, and I'm very excited to see what they'll come out with in 2021. But for now, this is ranked at number 87. In 86th place, I have the Broke palette from ColourPop. This is a very interesting color story. It's definitely one of the more sophisticated color stories ColourPop has launched this year. The reason this one is ranking so low is I really haven't had enough time with this palette, so it is in the 86th place. But this launched around the holidays with two other more neutral palettes. But this cool tone palette is very unique compared to a lot of the other palettes ColourPop puts out. In 85th place, I decided to pick this little I Heart Revolution Mini Tasty Avocado palette. I think this palette retails for like $10. Is it the best green eyeshadow palette in the drugstore? Absolutely not. There's going to be a fabulous green eyeshadow palette coming up for you guys to check out. It's not bad. I'm not mad that I bought it. I'm just ranking it a little bit lower. Okay, all of you Sweet Shop fans, you better not come for me. I swear I'm gonna freak out. But the Cotton Candy palette from BH Cosmetics. This one is my least favorite of the four I have from this collection. I just don't think this is very flattering on my skin tone. I wish they had included maybe like a deeper purple or a deeper pink shade. So this palette I feel like is very mid-tone. There's not a very light purple or a light pink, but there's not really a dark purple or a dark pink. It's just very like middle of the road shades. So you can't really do a lot of deepening up stuff, which I really like to have one deep colorful matte in every palette so I can deepen up my crease and my outer corner, which is what I like to do. So for that reason, my Cotton Candy palette is ranking at 84. Okay, in 83 is the Jaclyn Hill palette collab volume 2. This is a really nice palette. I feel like I need to get more use out of it, but it's nice. Like for Morphe, for being Jaclyn Hill, I know there's still a lot of like Jaclyn Hill fans out there, so who am I to judge? It's not the worst palette in my collection, I'll tell you that much. Okay, in 82nd place, I'm gonna rank the Alva 2 palette from Odin's Eye. This is a nice palette. It's definitely not a love for me. I really like the color story, but I feel like, again, another thing that this palette is missing is a deep, colorful matte shade. I'm gonna keep mentioning that. You guys might get sick of hearing me saying it, but I really don't like having to blend out a beautiful mid-tone colorful matte with a brown. I really wish that brands would pay attention to that. I like that people are doing like a little bit of neutral and a little bit of colorful, but take out one of the neutral dark mattes and replace it with a colorful matte, please. Please, because it just makes it easier to use the palette, in my humble opinion. Okay, 81 is this NYX Modern Dreamer palette. I really want the Utopia palette that's this size, but I am not going to purchase it because I know I'll never get any use out of another giant palette like this. But these NYX palettes are really good. I remember people saying that they were really good when they first launched, but I didn't want to spend the money. I did get this one when I worked with Look Fantastic one time to do like a eyeshadow look, like a dramatic eyeshadow look. I think I used this around Halloween time. So it was nice to try out, but I definitely don't intend to collect these or anything, but it's a nice palette if you're on a budget and you want like a bigger eyeshadow palette. Plus it's like nice packaging and you can see all the shades in it, which I think is a plus. Okay, in 80th place is the Smoky Soiree from Dose of Colors, and I was so excited for Dose of Colors to launch more of their 5-pan palettes like this. It felt like it had been a while since they launched something, and of course I have no chill, so I bought both of them, even though I don't really wear colors like this. So I definitely don't love the Dose of Colors formula as much as I remember. Like, I used to be so into my I Love Sarai palette as well as the Frank Haitian palette, but I feel like I haven't used those in a while, And now I feel like I can easily take a break from Dose of Colors because I don't really find myself reaching for the Dose of Colors products I have in my collection already. Okay, so for $79, I'm just going to include both of these Nabla palettes. They're nice, but they're all pressed glitters. So if you don't like pressed glitters, you're not going to like these. But if you like pressed glitters and you don't want them to be in your eyeshadow palettes, I feel like these are nice. The only thing is these shades are very similar to the point where there's not really that much difference as far as colors go. I mean, they are different. Like, there's a few more neutrals in this one, and this one has more of a purple shade and all that, but I think it would be fun if they're gonna do very separated pressed glitters like this, if they did more, I don't know, kind of different colors. Like, I would have loved if they did one with like some blues and some greens, obviously, as always, but yeah, I just feel like these are so similar, so I put them together and ranked them at number 79. Okay, in 78th place is this Marielle palette. This is a collaboration palette, and I was really into this. I think I'm gonna be reaching for this a lot more around Valentine's Day just because it has that kind of vibe to it. I know a lot of people were like, is this a Valentine's palette? Like, why is Too Faced launching this palette around the holidays? So I definitely want to use this more. It did not get enough love from me, but the few times I did try it, I wasn't blown away by the pigmentation, so that's why I'm ranking it at 78. 77 is the other Dose of Colors palette. This is the Cutting Edge palette, and I ranked this one a little bit higher than the other one because of the color story. You guys know I love a good grungy green color story, so I felt like I needed to rank this a little bit higher, but again, I'm just not in love with the Dose of Colors formula enough to justify the price I paid for this. 76 goes to the Juvia's Place Taupes palette. This one is very light. The only reason I ranked this a little bit higher than a lot of the other palettes is because I like the Juvia's Place formula, and I do like the metallics in this palette, but it definitely works better when I combine it with the Chocolates palette from Juvia's Place that they launched last year. 75, I'm going to give it to the Warm Neutrals palette. Now, you guys know I love Sigma. I am just ranking this a little bit lower because it's a neutral palette, and I do like neutral palettes, don't get me wrong, but this one's just not my favorite. I think it reminds me of the Modern Renaissance. It's a little bit more, I think, 2020 than the Modern Renaissance. My Modern Renaissance looks rough, let me tell you. It looks like it's definitely aged a few years. This is a nice palette. It's just not my favorite color story, so that's why I'm ranking it lower. Same with the Sigma Holiday palette. This is number 74, the Rendezvous. I think this is a really stellar palette. The quality is really nice. The only thing is, I feel like this is a very limiting palette for somebody like me. I love to have wild, colorful looks. I like to have neutral looks. So I feel like with this one, you can't really achieve a lot of versatility. But if you are a regular person that just wants to do the same eyeshadow look every day, this is going to be perfect for you. This size, this packaging, everything is so cute. And you guys know I love Sigma so much. 73 is a fun rainbow palette from e.l.f. Cosmetics. This is their collaboration with J. Kissa. The metallics in this palette are so beautiful. I definitely need to use this palette more as well because I don't feel like I got a full chance to play with it. But I like the concept. Of course, it's rescue themed, and J. Kissa is a huge advocate for adopt, so I love that because I have 2 adopted dogs as well, and so this is just a really cute palette all around. 72 goes to the Midas Cosmetics Pastel Collection. This was their fall collection, and it was sent to me by Midas Cosmetics. You guys know I am a Midas affiliate, so thank you to Midas for sending this to me. This goes back to the fact that I just don't love pastels that much, and try as I might, I feel like pastels don't really love me either, so I'm ranking these in number 72. 71 goes to this cute Milani palette. This was the beautiful Nightmare palette that they launched for holiday. Honestly, this is such a cute palette, and I think it's so different for the drugstore. Even though 71 seems lower in my rankings, I still feel like that's a big deal for a brand like Milani to be even in my rankings, because you guys know I try a lot of eyeshadow palettes throughout the year, so for Milani to make it to 71 I think is a really good spot. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been talking forever and we're not even halfway yet. Oh my gosh. Okay, so in 70th place I have another pastel palette. This is the Lethal Cosmetics After Dark collection, and it's such a fun collection. I had so much fun playing with this, and I really like the metallics. I love the gel liners that they launched with this collection, but again, I try to make pastels work, but I definitely prefer myself in more jewel tone eyeshadow palettes, so that's why I'm ranking this in number 70. Number 69, I had to mention the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette. If you are on a budget, this is a really nice green and blue palette. If you like grungy greens and you can't afford to spend a lot of money, I will say I've definitely played with the greens more and they are so nice. They blend so beautifully. The metallic shades just glide on your eyes. So I feel like for a $10 drugstore palette, this is a really nice palette. I think I used this in a video, but now I can't remember 100%. So hopefully I did. You guys will have to check out my channel, but I could definitely see myself doing an eye look with this if you guys are interested in seeing it. 68 is a good one. Oh my gosh, the Artemis palette. I feel like you guys were all waiting for a dupe to the Metropolis palette. Now, this is not a formula dupe to the Metropolis palette. I don't think anyone could really do Natasha Denona's formula at a low price point like this one, but it is a solid color dupe. I did do a full video where I think I did one eye with each palette, or maybe I just only did my eyes with this palette, but I swatched every single shade in the Metropolis against every single shade in this palette, so you could see if it was truly a dupe. I would highly recommend checking that out. I think this is a fabulous palette for the price point, and if you don't want to spend the money on Natasha Denona, like, who am I to tell you what to do with your money? Let's be real. So I think this is a good palette. Would I have bought this with my own money? No, because I have the Metropolis. Am I mad that I have both of them? Absolutely not. Do I know people that have both palettes and are perfectly happy with their lives? Yes. So yeah, I think it's a nice palette. And I know not everybody has the money to spend on the Natasha Denona version. So that's why I recommend this palette to you guys. 67, Ace Beauté did redeem themselves with the Nostalgia palette for the crimes against humanity that were committed by the Vintage Dawn palette. This is a really fun color story, another palette I would really like to use on my channel in a look. I did feature this in a live stream, but I kind of want to do eye looks with so many of these palettes just so I can build up like an archive. I know people don't love to watch videos with older palettes, but man, oh man, sometimes I get really nostalgic to try and play with older palettes. So one of my goals for 2020 is to find a cool way to incorporate old palettes without even realizing that that's what I'm doing. Because I know a lot of people will do like throwback Thursdays or things like that with older palettes, but I feel like those videos just don't do well. That's what I've heard from so many content creators, which is why I haven't really done them myself. But one of my goals for 2021 is to make a way to feature older palettes but still have it get good views. So I'll get back to you guys on that. Okay, 66, we're going to give it to the Charlotte Tilbury Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotize palette. This is another really nice neutral palette that I kind of fell in love with when I was really into neutral eyeshadows this year, but I definitely need to do a look with this palette on my channel as well. I think this is a nice palette. Are you going to get some like crazy glittery eye looks with this? No, but if you want to do like a sophisticated eyeshadow look, then this might be it. Plus this packaging is so pretty, so I'm super glad I have this. Okay, I'm about to get canceled. I know. In 65, I have the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Now, you guys know color story is why this is ranking so low. I just don't like cool tone eyeshadow palettes. Pastels, cool tones, they're just not for me, and that's totally fine. So that is why I'm ranking this at number 65. Okay, in 64, this is the Cutie palette by Nabla. This is the Platinum palette. I know some people are really into this color story. Again, it's like a little too neutral, a little too cool tone for me. I'm so glad I have it because it's such a fun palette, and every once in a while I have a reason to reach for this, but this is not a palette that would rank any higher in my collection, even if I had less eyeshadow palettes than I currently do. 63 is this little guy from Pat McGrath. This is the Celestial Divinity Luxe Quad in Interstellar Icon. I had purchased these closer to the end of the year, so there's one quad I haven't tried still, but this one's beautiful. I had to rank this because I love this purple shade. This metallic shade is actually stunning. It's like a really dark aubergine like brown color, and it's so nice. So I really like this quad from Pat McGrath. I cannot wait to see what she comes out with in 2021. 62 is another Nabla Cutie palette. This is the Metropolitan palette, and honestly, I just really don't like this color story that much. I really like Nabla's eyeshadow formula, but this color story is kind of a little bit disjointed. I feel like it could be a little bit more, I don't know, like make sense for me, but I should probably play with this a little bit more too and see what other looks I can come up with this color story. Okay, I don't think you guys will be too surprised where I'm ranking this, but maybe some of you will be because you guys know I love Natasha Denona. Is landing at number 61, and it's only because I feel like, again, it needs some more deepening up shades. There's a lot of pastel shades in here, but I wish there was a few more mid-tone and deeper shades just to help with the richness of the multi-chromes, but that's just my humble opinion. I'm sure other people have different opinions, and that's okay. But yeah, this palette I feel like just could have been just like a little bit, just could have been a little bit better. It was like, it wasn't almost there because I feel like it's definitely at like 40%, but I feel like we could have gotten this to 100% in my book, and the mark was missed. Okay guys, I hope you're remembering to drink water while you're watching this video because we're not even halfway. Why did I decide to listen to you guys? In 60th place, we have this little guy from Juvia's Place. This is the Sweet Pinks palette. I just love this palette so much because it's bright and it's pink. And I feel like this is perfect for spring going into summertime. So I will definitely be pulling this palette back up to use. This coral shade and this pink shade just, ugh, they make me so happy. So I really like that. And I'm ranking it at number 60. 59 is another Juvia's Place palette. This is the Mauves by Juvia's Place. This is so pretty. This shade right here is so stunning. It doesn't have a name, but it's like a beautiful duochrome purple, green, pink shade. It's so, so stunning. So I really like this palette from Juvia's Place. In 58th place is the Nikkie Tutorials and Beauty Bay collab palette. I did not realize that Nikkie Tutorials was going to be collabing with Beauty Bay this year. I'm so happy for her. She's had a crazy year, but looks like it's turning around, so that's wonderful for Nikkie Tutorials, and I'm excited to see what else Beauty Bay launches in 2021 because there's another fabulous palette from them that's ranked much higher, so stay tuned if you are curious to see. Okay, so we are entering problematic brand territory. This is the P. Louise Worldy palette, and I'm ranking this at number 57. I just really like the color story of this palette. Everything else with this brand is kind of a disaster. This packaging is ridiculously heavy. If I had to guess, I would say this is at least close to 5 pounds. I never actually ended up weighing it. I feel like that's a little bit excessive for an eyeshadow palette. An eyeshadow palette should not weigh as much as a box of like nails. It shouldn't weigh this much. There's no way you're traveling the world with this palette, let me tell you, unless you are a assassin that kills people with eyeshadow palettes. So 56 is not a problematic brand, but it's a pastel palette. I do like Menagerie. This is their pastel pop palette. I was so lucky because I got to get some PR from Menagerie this year. It looks like they're launching something new this year, so I'm very excited to see what it is because I have a feeling it's like duochromes or multi-chromes or something. They were teasing something on their Instagram story. Pastel Pop is really nice. It's one of my favorite pastel palettes, but I just struggle with the pastels, guys. Okay, back to problematic palettes. So we have the Mitchell palettes. These are the Made by Mitchell palettes. I'm ranking them at 55 and 54. It doesn't really matter. I think these are nice palettes, and I definitely want to play with these more because there's a ton of shades that I still haven't used in these palettes. But I like the color story. I'm not a huge fan of their shipping or the prices of their products, and I'm curious to see what else he launches in 2021, but I don't know that I will be rushing to purchase from him in the new year. Okay, so 53 is the Nomad Cosmetics palette. They also did have a little bit of controversy with this one and the name. Personally, I am so excited about this palette. It's my favorite Nomad palette, and they're also teasing a new palette in 2021, so I'm very excited to see. All I've seen so far is this beautiful green shade, and I'm here for it. 52 is the Urban Myth palette by Black Moon. I've always wanted to try Black Moon Cosmetics, so it was really, really fun to try this palette from them. Their other palettes are more neutral. One is like a matte neutral palette, and the other was a metallic neutral palette. So it was so fun to try a colorful formula from them and a colorful palette from them. And this palette is really nice, so I cannot wait to see if they come out with more colors in 2021. This Lime Crime palette had me shook in the start of 2020. It's such a pretty color story. It doesn't look like anything much, but what a versatile color story this is. I think it's easy to fall in love with. It's very unique. It has some beautiful duochromes and these beautiful like iridescent shade. That's a really pretty inner corner highlight. So if you have been eyeing this Lime Crime palette, I would say this is probably my favorite one from the Venus size palettes. And this is the Prelude Chrome palette by Lime Crime. I think Scott Barnes launched in 2020. This is his Snatchral palette, and I did buy this one with my own money. This is a very nice, sophisticated neutral palette. The reason I'm ranking this a little bit lower is the price point. It's a bit excessive. I think this is like an $80 palette, so you definitely want to save your money before picking this up. And I believe this brand is made in China. Now, there are made in China palettes that have extremely good quality. I don't think it has anything to do with where it's made. I think it's more of the quality that's used when the eyeshadow palette is made. It doesn't really matter if it's made in China, because there are palettes that are made in China that have really good quality, and some palettes you just get what you pay for, I think, with some brands. But I still don't know. I still don't know that we can justify the $80 price with this, because there are some fabulous neutral palettes towards the latter half of this video, but ranking this at number 50. Okay, 49 is the Stone Vibes palette. Again, this palette almost could have ranked higher because it has beautiful packaging, really pretty shimmers, but again, I just don't like when they include neutral matte shades in a colorful palette. Like, couldn't they have given us at least one colorful matte in this palette instead of 4 really neutral crease shades? Like, I just don't love the neutral crease colorful metallic on the lid look. I know it's very easy. It's a good way to try out color. It's a good way to dip your toe into the pool, which I think is the point of palettes like this. But for somebody like me, I just love having a colorful crease with a colorful lid shade, is all I'm saying. 48 is the Mel Thompson Tiny Marvels palette. I know so many YouTubers have been including this in like their top 5, their top 10. I really like Sydney Grace. You guys know how much I love Sydney Grace. They are a brand I've supported for a long time, and I've definitely felt the love from them. You guys have heard me talk about this palette, and the thing is, I think this is a beautiful palette. The quality is top notch. I just don't love this palette on my skin tone. If I had gotten a chance to work on this palette with this color story, all I would have done was just made the mattes more intense for my skin tone. So that's it. Other than that, it's a fabulous palette, and I would highly encourage you guys to pick this up. 47 is my favorite color story from Lethal this year. This is the Velvet Dusk palette. This is like me in a fall color story. I love this palette so much, and yeah, I'm so happy with Lethal, and I'm so thankful they sent this to me. So this is number 47. 46 is for the basic bitch that lives within my heart. This is the Pumpkin Spice palette. Oh my god, I was shook when I tried this palette because I didn't see myself buying this, but I just thought it was so pretty, and I had an Ulta coupon, so I drove my butt over to Ulta and I picked this up when it launched at Ulta. And it's a nice palette. I would gift this to all my friends that love neutral eyeshadows. It's just so fun. Number 45 is the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. I have the deeper tone palette. This was really cool because this was the first time Sydney Grace did the same eyeshadow palette, but they kind of designed it so one palette was more suited for light to medium skin tones, and then they did one that was medium to dark skin tone friendly, which I think is really fabulous. You gotta love when indie brands are the ones that are really making moves as far as innovation in the makeup industry, and all I can do is hope that it trickles down to the big players. But this is such a beautiful palette. Again, stellar quality from Sydney Grace. They have updated the packaging. I can't remember if this palette got discontinued. I feel like I saw that it was getting discontinued, or something was getting discontinued from them, but the updated cardboard packaging did look really nice. I literally contemplated buying this in the new packaging just to have it, but I don't need to buy it just to collect the packaging. But the eyeshadows inside are fabulous, and this was sent to me as well. 44 was also sent to me. This is the El Barrio palette from Terra Moon. I really like this palette. I think this is a really true testament to how good Terra Moon's eyeshadows are, but The one but is that Tara Moon has these amazing eyeshadows called the Chameleon eyeshadows, and I feel like she should have just included at least one of them in this palette, because I feel like more people tend to buy eyeshadow palettes, and I feel like a chameleon shadow in here would have really hooked a lot of people into trying more of her shadows in the future. Number 43 is our Naughty palette from BH Cosmetics. Honestly, I need to try this palette more as well, but you guys love this palette. I love this palette the few times I've tried it. My favorite shade in this palette is freaking Rudolph. Rudolph knocked my socks off this year, so I'm very, very happy that I got my hands on it. I think this was on like an amazing sale the last time I checked, so if you guys are interested, I think I saw it at half off. I don't know if it's still half off, but it's worth every penny. I would buy this full price again, but shit, if you can get it on a deal, why not? Oh my gosh, you guys, my mouth is actually tired. So number 42 is the Alva palette. This is also from Odin's Eye. I really like this. This is the first thing I tried from them as far as eyeshadow palettes go, and I love the neutral. I know it's kind of like, it's a neutral palette, but I love that they included some more purple leaning shades, and the shimmer on these bad boys is stunning. Plus, Odin's Eye is a Swedish indie makeup brand, so I just like that because it reminds me of my friend Angie. 41 goes to Muse Beauty, and this is their Impressionism palette. I want their Van Gogh palette in the worst way. I saw Annette's Makeup Corner review it, and now I really, really want it, but I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to see what palette like really gets me to buy in 2021, because it is the 3rd of January, I think, and I haven't bought any makeup yet for this year. I know. I shouldn't be patting myself on the back, because there's people that literally go a year without buying makeup. 2 years, 3 years, that's not for me. I admire people that can do that, but that's just not my journey. So yeah, I just think their Van Gogh palette is so beautiful. And then I also saw Annette rank this in her rankings pretty high for 2020. So it's a good palette. I really like this. Obviously not to the level that Annette does, but I really like this, and I really want to try their Van Gogh palette because it's like a grungy blue-green palette that I need to get my hands on in 2021. Okay guys, top 40 is coming at ya hot. In 40th place, I have probably the ugliest packaging in this whole ranking video, but man oh man do I like this palette. This is the Glamlight Chocolate Donut palette. I recently got this in my holiday foodie box, and I really like these colors. It's a neutral palette. If you can get past the packaging, I think you would really enjoy this. I know this is not for everyone, but I am pretty confident that Glamlight's gonna launch another neutral palette, hopefully in 2021, with less food attached to it. So here's hoping, but I do really like that palette. So it's in 40th place. I figured I might as well rank the Pie palette with that. So this is the Glamlight Pie palette that I'm ranking in 39th place. This one's cute. It's not as neutral as the Donut palette. It has some fun pinks and purples for like the blueberry pies and the blackberry pies. You know, the packaging's kind of cheesy, but it's also kind of adorable, especially if you are a big fan of pies. I think you would really like this palette, and I really like what's on the inside of this pie, if I'm being honest with you guys. 38, we have another baby palette from Pat McGrath. This one actually shocked me. I really was thinking I was going to enjoy the other palette more than this one, but this purple shade really stole the show. So this is the Risque Rose from her Holiday Quad collection, and it's so beautiful. I'm so glad I didn't pay a full price for these quads, but I'm not mad that they are in my collection. 37 goes to the Colorful palette from Scott Barnes. This is the Color Bomb palette, and this is a really nice palette. It's very demure and very kind of sophisticated like the Natural palette, but it's a colorful, sophisticated palette, which I don't think is very easy to find. So if you like bougie makeup, but you also like to play with color, I would highly recommend this palette. 36 goes to the Summer Days palettes from Sydney Grace. These were sent to me by Sydney Grace, and they are fabulous. And I don't know why mine are so messy, but if you want a go-to neutral palette, I would highly recommend. Again, just like the Enduring Love, they did one for light to medium and then medium to deep, which I highly appreciate. And that the fact that they sent me both is icing on the cake. So really like these from Sydney Grace. 35 goes to the Avocado Toast palette from BH Cosmetics. This is such a fun palette. I really like the Avocado Toast palette from BH, but there is a different all green palette that made it all the way to the tippy top of my ranking. So this one is in 35, but you guys need to keep watching if you want to see my top 10. 34 goes to the Sunset palette. I'm pretty sure this launched in 2020. You guys will tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I feel like this is a nice palette. Again, I'm just kind of over the Sunset eyeshadow palette, so I'm really glad towards the end of 2020 we didn't see any more of those yellow, red, orange shade palettes. So, I mean, Natasha Denona's done like the sunrise and the sunset. This is the sunrise, sorry. Did I say sunset? She's done the sunset before, so I was pretty surprised that she did another color story like this, but this was the first $65 eyeshadow palette she launched, so I really like that she did something in this lower price point. Still with the same great quality we're used to, but not my favorite color story, which is why I'm ranking it at 34. 33 is the Essentials palette by Sigma x Stephanie Lange, or however you say it. I really like this palette. Listen, if I wasn't on YouTube, this would be like one of my top palettes of 2020. It's so stunning. The neutral shades are beautiful. I'm very grateful to Sigma for sending this to me. 32 is the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse palette. This is another palette I want to try more of, but Manny, you know, knocked it out of the park with his amazing quality. It's not my favorite color story. I wish there was a little less neutral and a little more punch. You know, I would have loved to see another iridescent shade for an inner corner highlight and so on and so forth, but that's okay. That's why it's not my job to design the palettes. It's just my job to play with them and review them for you guys. So this is in number 32. And in 31st place is the Sashimi City Futurism 7 palette from Kaleidos. And I just totally dropped the name sheet. Oh well, this is a pretty palette. Is it my favorite Kaleidos palette? No, but I really like it. Okay guys, top 30, here we go. So in 30th place, I did grab the Lunar Lavender palette from Kaleidos, and this is Futurism 6. This is stunning. This purple shade, you guys know I'm such a sucker for purples, so I had to rank this a little bit higher than Sashimi City. 29 goes to the Wahala 1 palette. This was such a beautiful launch from Juvia's Place this year. I honestly thought that this was where Juvia's Place was gonna peak this year, but oh my gosh, they had so many tricks up their sleeve this year. I think it was such a stunning, stellar, wonderful year for Juvia's Place. I am so in love with this brand, from their lipsticks to their eyeshadow palettes this year. I feel like Juvia's Place was one of those it brands for me in 2020. Another it brand for me in 2020 was definitely Glamlight, and I really like this palette. The only complaint I have is the neutral rose up here. I just wish they had kind of stuck to that beautiful pastel theme. I think this is the highest ranking pastel palette in this video, and for good reason. I think this one works really well with my tan skin, so if you have been on the hunt for a good pastel palette, this is the one I would recommend to you guys. 27 goes to the Love palette by Natasha Denona. This launched around Valentine's Day last year, and I mean, it totally screams Valentine's Day. This is such a beautiful palette. I definitely want to play with this more because, I don't know, I just feel this color story so much, so I might do that again for Valentine's this year. You guys let me know. Would you like to see like a Valentine's tutorial with this one? Such a cute palette. I can't wait to see Natasha Denona do more fun, interesting color stories in the $65 price point. 26, I'm going to give it to the Chase Your Dreams palette from Sydney Grace. I like this color story so much. I think it works so well for my tan skin tone. It's such a beautiful purple, neutral, kind of fun color story, so I would highly recommend checking this out. 25 is this cute little baby from Midas Cosmetics. I am low-key obsessed with this. This is so much better than the Huda Kaki palette, which I forgot to rank it in this palette rankings video. Whoops! I guess I forgot to grab it, but I feel like you guys got almost 100 palettes. I feel like you should be pretty happy with the work I put in. Please leave your customer service complaints. Actually, you can email me at Karen Harris, this is not my full-time job, at gmail.com. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyway, I really like this palette. This was sent to me from Midas, and oh my gosh, this size for these green shadows, you don't need too much, but you can create a killer eye look with this. So Love me some army green tones. Very, very happy with this palette. 24, the only ColourPop palette to make it over 50 is the Raw Beauty Christie at Forest Sight palette. This is such a fun color story. This is the ColourPop that we were all obsessed with. When I think of like the good old days when ColourPop was launching like really cool eyeshadow color stories like the Good Sport and the Whatever palette. Even their first one, the Cute AF palette, like that was so fun and unique and different for its time, and now I feel like we get a lot of the same repeated and recycled and repackaged. So I wish ColourPop would kind of work on creating more innovative stuff like this. So I really like this palette. 23, I had to give it to the Wild Berry palette from Nabla. This is such a cute color story. It's so well curated. This shade Alchemy 2 is so stunning. I know a lot of people know the original Alchemy from Nabla as like the it shade from them. I don't have that one, but I do like that they included a version of it in this palette. 22 goes to another amazing Nabla palette. This one came out towards the end of the year. This is the Nabla Side by Side palette. I don't think they have any palettes that are quite this neutral, so it's really fun to get my hands on a Nabla neutral formula, and it is very, very creamy. Highly recommend if you like a good neutral palette. 21, it goes to the Melt She's in Parties palette. I was wondering if I would rank this higher, but honestly, like as much as I like this color story, it's not a love, and these shadows are a mess. They're so fragile. I didn't even drop this palette. It just came broken, so I'm guessing whoever delivered this played football with it. Either way, it's not my favorite color story of all time, so that's why I'm ranking it at 21. You guys, I had so many other videos planned to film today, but I feel like this has taken up like my whole filming day on Sunday, from organizing to categorizing to all of the above. So oh my gosh, there might just be one video this week. I don't even know. So in 20th place is the recently deceased palette from Melt Cosmetics. This is a beautiful palette. I really like this. The only reason I'm ranking it kind of in the top 20 and not in the top 10 is because I feel like there's not that many shades in this palette. Like 8 eyeshadows isn't really a lot for a $48 eyeshadow palette that I want to recommend to you guys. And I feel like just because I love purple and green doesn't mean everybody does. And I don't think you can even buy these palettes anymore. So we're ranking it at number 20. Number 19 is the palette that hit the #1 spot in my November rankings. And you guys were half supportive. Some of you were surprised, but most of you were in agreement with me, which I was really happy about. And that is the Huda Naughty palette. This palette definitely caught me off guard. It's just a workhorse palette, or as I like to call it, my sweatpants palette, because it's easy, it's comfortable, I feel confident in them, and it's good to go. So I really like this palette. Highly recommend picking it up if you are interested in a more burgundy type neutral palette. Number 18. Now, for the longest time in 2020, I thought I was going to be ranking this as #1 of the year. So it has fallen, it has been dethroned, but not by too much. I feel like top 20 is still really a good spot for this palette. Such a beautiful, glamorous eyeshadow palette. You guys know I'm a huge fan of the ABH formula. I love this pink packaging. Like at first I thought it was really kind of tacky, but I kind of love it. It just reminds me of New Year's Eve, to be very honest with you guys. 17th place goes to the Melt Waiting Room palette. I feel like that's kind of a good twist because I would have thought that the recently deceased palette would rank higher, but I just love this eyeshadow color story. It definitely took me out of my comfort zone, so very happy with this palette. Number 16 is my beloved Corda Rosa from Sigma. This is the palette that started my obsession with Sigma Beauty. I had not even looked at a Sigma eyeshadow palette until I tried this one. I remember when people started getting this in PR, I was so curious about it, and I think I saw maybe Kelly Gooch and Samantha March got this in PR, and I was so intrigued, and so I got my hands on it, and I love this palette so much. In 15th place is another Sigma palette. This one is so fabulous. This is the Untamed palette. I've told this story 80,000 times on my channel, but I bought this palette, I filmed a video, and I ended up on the Sigma PR list. So me and this palette, we're BFFs because it just has such great memories for me as far as just really cool things that happened in 2020 for my little channel here on the YouTube. So I really like this palette. I think it's fun. I honestly would recommend all of the Sigma eyeshadow palettes to you guys. I want to rank them. I will rank them. It's coming. There's going to be way more eyeshadow palette ranking videos in 2021. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like, I haven't said that enough times. Also, we're on to the top 15. Oh my gosh. Number 14 is my beautiful Kaleidos palette. Oh my gosh, I always open this wrong. If these shadows were magnetized in the pan, because my friend Emily wanted to know, and they're not magnetized in there, so don't try to yank them out. And I still haven't found any super glue to glue that back on, so here we are, just on the struggle bus. But I cannot wait to see what Kaleidos has up their sleeve for 2021, because if it's anywhere near as good as 2020, well, my dear, we are in for a good time. Number 13. You guys didn't think I was going to forget about my Profusion Emeralds palette, did you? This is $5. $5 for the best green eyeshadow palette from the drugstore. I love this palette so, so much. I would highly recommend running on over to your local Walmart and picking this up. Number 12 is the Supreme Nudes from Artist Couture. I've talked about this palette over and over and over again. You guys have probably heard me talk about the top 20 so many times in so many different videos, recommendations, gifting videos, ranking videos, all of the above, but let's just toot its little horn. This is a really great neutral eyeshadow palette that I picked up in 2020. Number 11 is the Blueberry Muffin palette from BH Cosmetics. This palette is so cute. What I love about this palette is all of the pretty blue tones, but also this shade Decadent, I feel like really takes the cake for me with this palette, because blues and like this burgundy is such a beautiful combo. I think personally this in the crease with like tempting on the lid is such a stunning eye look, so I love it so much. Okay guys, we have made it to the top 10. You know what terrifies me about YouTube is when you sit to film and you're like, did I turn my microphone on? Because I've been talking for, I'm not gonna lie, probably an hour at this point, and that would just be the worst, because I also pulled off all of my post-it notes because that's how I'm keeping track of all of the rankings, and I would probably cry a bucket of tears, and I would probably not film this video again because it's been that long. It's so much talking. Anyway, we've got top 10. If any of you are brave enough to guess my number one palette of 2020, now is the time, folks. Cast your votes. Number one palette, my top 5, my top 10. Guess away, my friends. And if you've made it to this point of the video, definitely leave me a star emoji, because I love seeing you guys fill up my comment section with emojis, especially when you made it so far into the video. It really makes me feel amazing about myself. And without further blabbering, let's get into the top 10. Okay guys, in 10th place, we have a neutral palette. We've got the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. Now, it's a boring neutral palette. I get it. But sometimes we just need a nice workhorse to go to work. And this is it, my friends. This deep dive shade is her cream to powder formula. I love it so much. If she could give me a cream to powder formula palette just full of deep matte shades, I would be such a happy camper. One can hope, but I love this palette so, so much. So it is in the 10th spot. Number 9, I don't know guys, this palette just captured my heart, okay? This metallic shade just, it's so pretty, and it's such a fun palette, and the 3 different tones of purple are spectacular. Like, this is how I want people to do 6-pan palettes, with a little bit of everything. You can do some different creative looks, not 6 similar shades. I feel like there's good variety here. There's a deep matte, there's a mid-tone matte, and there's a light matte. Beautiful metallic and one pressed glitter, and you have a nice big party. Number 8, you guys are probably shook that this is in here, but this palette, oh my goodness, it is a wow palette. This is so nice. It's a quad. I don't even think I have any other quads in this video except those Nabla ones, but this one is so bomb. If you like small palettes, get this one. If you don't want to try Juvia's Place, anything else from them because it's too colorful, get this palette. I don't think you'd regret it. Plus it's 10 bucks. I mean, you can't go wrong. Also, you can use Angie's code to save like 10%, I think. Angelica saves you money on the Juvia's Place website, which is how I picked up my palette, and it's wonderful. Okay, in 7th place is my beautiful Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette. I disliked the Divine Rose 1 so much. I feel like Pat McGrath redeemed herself with this palette, and we love ourselves a good old luxury multi-chrome, so very happy with this palette. I would highly recommend picking this up if you are interested in trying Pat McGrath. Number 6 is my Wahala 2 palette. I love this palette so much. I love this packaging. Like, this color story to me is chef's kiss, and it's gorgeous. I really would have picked this as my #1 palette if I didn't think that there were other palettes that could kind of top it for me. We also love that there is a multi-chrome in here, so if you don't want to spend Pat McGrath type money, you can still experience a multi-chrome. There's some pressed glitters, some really fun shades in this palette. So I feel like this is the best Juvia's Place palette of all the Juvia's Place palettes I own. Number 5, are you guys gonna get this one? I know, I'm a little shook too because it's a all blue palette, but honestly, this is the best all blue palette I own. It's absolutely stunning. The shade Sweet Tooth is beautiful. You guys know how many times I reached for Single Scoop when I was reviewing other palettes. So all around amazing blue eyeshadow palette. Highly recommend running to the BH Cosmetics website right now and purchasing this if you haven't. From the look of that new Birthstone series BH Cosmetics is doing, they're back up to their 2019 tricks again, where they're gonna launch some very questionable color stories from what my makeup gut is telling me. So get the good palettes while you can, because who knows how long the Sweet Shops will be in stock for. Number 4. Yup, I had to do it. This is the Pistachio palette from the Sweet Shops collection. Oh my god, this shade, Crunch, is one of my favorite green eyeshadows of all time. It's so stunning on the eyes. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really played with too much of the mattes, but all of the metallics are absolutely stunning. I love this palette so much. Highly recommend picking this one up as well before it sells out. Okay guys, we're up to the top 3. What 3 palettes have I not mentioned yet? Have you guys figured it out? So in 3rd place, drum roll please, we have the Book of Magic palette from Beauty Bay. Oh my gosh. I feel like I sold this palette to so many of you, and I feel like we've got good reasons. We love the metallics, we love the color story, we love the packaging. This palette is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's just so beautiful. There's nothing I would change. There is nothing I would do differently with this palette. All I want is for them to do something like this with like the greens, like a green, yellow, brown version would be spectacular. I can't wait to play with this some more. Such a stunning palette. Number 3. I don't know what else to say. I love it so much. Now, I'm wearing the 1st and 2nd place palettes on my eyes. Small hint. So in 2nd place is Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity Mega Fantastic Awesome palette. I'm shook by this palette, you guys. I didn't think I was gonna like this because I already own 12 of the eyeshadows in this palette, but for some reason seeing those Star Wars shades back in here in this format has just reinvigorated my love for these shimmer shadows. They're so stunning. They're so easy to use. You don't have to even wet your brush. You just need to take a nice flat brush and pack them on, and they pack on so nicely. I would highly recommend anyone that wants to try some high-end makeup to check out the Celestial Divinity Mega Palette by Pat McGrath. Okay, in 1st place is the Carnival palette. Oh my gosh, this was so hard. You guys, kudos to everyone that ranks their palettes because I've never done this before. I just know that Samantha March has ranked all her eyeshadow palettes, and I watched her video last year and I was like, how on earth? And then so many of my friends have been doing this video, so I was like, let me just try it. Let me just try it. If people hate it, they don't have to watch it. It's fine. So I decided to do it. In 2021, I'm already going to do a better job of keeping track of all my palettes, but holy smokes, this palette is just such a workhorse palette. I can do neutral looks, I can do green looks, I can do blue looks, I can do purple looks, I can do orange looks. Like, this palette is like such a go-to for me. It's my most used palette of 2020 and I really like it. I'm wearing it on my eyes today. A majority of the shades are from the Carnival palette. So I'm very, very glad that I grabbed this. I have the second Carnival palette too that they did with Stacey Marie, but I feel like the Love Tahiti one is the one to get. I also love that they kind of upped the packaging on this one, so I really like this palette. I feel like I featured it so many times on my channel, so if you guys are looking for more videos, check out my Be Perfect playlist, because I do have basically playlists for every single brand that I try out on my channel. I just feel like it makes it easier for you guys to find things if you're looking for them, or if you want to binge watch a certain series that I do on my channel. So yeah, that is it, guys. That is number 1. I'm gonna go work on editing this video. I already know it's gonna be a million hours long, and it's totally fine. I'm so excited. I'm so glad I'm done. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for all your support in 2020. I know it was a rough year for a lot of us, and I'm really hoping that 2021 really turns it around. Really hoping that my channel continues to grow and I get a chance to interact with more and more of my Karen Harris makeup fam. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and comment down below. Also, if you are not subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe, because there will be tons more fun videos coming up, and I will see you guys in my next video soon. Bye!